But yeah, you're just tapping into the fandom, right? And
Yeah.
the loyalty that your local audience has towards their biggest athlete or one of their biggest athletes. It's something that I've seen happen, especially in DC.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Connect Over Coffee. Today, who's bringing the West Coast vibes here? I'm chatting with Zack Collins, who is the Director of Media and Brand Partnerships of Squirco. Zack, thank you for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Let's kick things off with our 2-minute drill. I'm going to rapid fire a few questions at you. You just answer the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go. Coffee or tea?
T.
East Coast or West Coast vibes? I know we just chatted about that a little bit, but
West Coast. West Coast. I got love for the East Coast though.
All right. Favorite athlete?
Kobe.
Ooh, that's my favorite athlete, actually. Favorite sports team?
Steelers.
Disagree on that one. That's okay. That's okay.
Yep.
Favorite song or song that gets you hyped every time you hear it?
Oh, that's really, really difficult. I guess the hype. This is not going to be a rapid fire one. I'm just going to go latest and greatest Mr. Morale. That Pharrell beat off of the new Kendrick is pretty crazy. So I'll go with that one because I know that one will stand the test of time. That will be one that I can rock with 5 years, 10 years from now. So
not gonna lie, when I heard that, I think I repeated it 3 times in a row. That's a good vibe.
Legend.
Right there. I like it.
Legend.
Yeah, that is going to stand the test of time. 5 years from now, when someone's watching this, it's still going to be a banger for sure. That's
absolutely.
I listened to the album. Side note, everyone, listen to the album top to bottom, and I was like, wow, another one from Kendrick. I'm in love with it. So
yeah. I respect vulnerability, and I'm just glad he's allowing others to see you can do it at the highest level with the brightest lights on you. So, but yeah, Pharrell is one of my favorite producers, and yeah, it's a banger.
Something in the water coming to DC this year. You got to make it back to town.
I heard. I got to check that. I might have to check that.
All right, Zack, let's connect a little bit further here. Partnerships roles in the sports industry. Talk to me about this position. To me, right, it's one of the toughest positions because rarely do you ever see a quick turnaround in a partnership sale. It's usually about the long game here, right? There's very rarely any deals that happen overnight. And then second, you're kind of talking to organizations about how they should go and spend their money with you. It's kind of going into their budget and saying, hey, this is why you should spend your dollars with me instead of this team, this league, or this organization here. So just kind of walk me through the process and the mindset you have for running a marathon instead of a sprint.
The big thing is obviously, like you said, it's the long game, and going into it with that mindset, especially on the team side, you have so many touch points, whether it's events, whether it's games, and really trying to tap into the fandom of it, and making sure you have those consistent touch points and stay in front of mind, right? It's just like any other marketing campaign, you do it to stay in front of your consumer. So I think the same thing applies to partnerships. And from a timing standpoint, I've always thought, and I can't quote it or claim it, but the partnerships move as quickly as the trust is there and stable, right? So I think it takes quite some time when it's a cold lead, right? When there's no real roadmap on or blueprint on how it happened or how it went before. So a lot of the sponsors, especially today, with so many new emerging tech, those are cold calls, and those take some time. So the process is consistency, staying front of mind, being professionally persistent, and you can be a pain in the ass if you're comfortable enough with it. But yeah, it's staying in front, and also you're at the mercy of your market, right? Some agencies, some brands just don't want to be in the market, and you have to hopefully get to that no quicker than just sitting, standing in neutral and not being able to know where they're thinking. But Yeah, it's definitely difficult, but it's all about understanding their needs and then staying on them because
Yeah.
that's the only way you're gonna get it done.
Have you ever had like a quick turnaround, and what did that quick turnaround kind of mean to you? Was it a couple months and saying that's a quick turnaround, or was it a little bit of a longer spell, but still considered a quick turnaround in the partnership business?
I think on the team side, a quick turnaround would be a couple of months.
Yeah.
I think it depends, right? In my role now, more on the media side, it is very much transactional where, hey, these are the certain amount of impressions, this is the CPM, whatever the situation is, it's a lot quicker. So it's a relief to be kind of more selling on the media side versus kind of event selling or true sponsorship selling on the team side. So on the team side, 2 or 3 months, I'm happy. I am happy, but long play, 18 months, 2 years, it might take a regime change on the brand side or the agency side to give you another look. And that's the other frustrating part. You can work 6 months on a lead only for, your main point of contact to leave. And then you're starting at square one, right? So, and always, 9 times out of 10, the new person doesn't want anything to do with what the last person did, right? So it's almost by nature, you're not going to get that fair shake. So yeah, it's a process for sure.
So Zack, recently I was chatting with someone about the power and influence that athletes and entertainers have in consumer spending this year, especially now more than ever with NFT, crypto, Web3. Can you describe how that might change your sales pitch going into meetings nowadays?
I don't know if that will directly apply to me, but I think if I'm in a market that has a big time, influential athlete, polarizing athlete, good or bad, frankly, you got to find a way to leverage him in a pitch. Now you're adding about 10 pages and about a mile long worth of red tape when you try to incorporate an athlete and then getting their agency involved, right? There's a lot more that comes with it, image and likeness, all those things. So it's exciting, but it can be a lot more complicated than other things. I think you see it a lot, more on podcasts where you have those influencers who are giving you promo codes and you have a loyal listening base or an audience that is able to pull some dollars from that from a revenue standpoint. So it's not just athletes and entertainers now, it's the micro influencers on social and also, the podcast audiences. So I think it's difficult to kind of pull in one of the bigger athletes to do it if you're in the market, but if you can do it, you can get away with it. It could be really beneficial. But you're just tapping into the fandom, right? And the loyalty that your local audience has towards their biggest athlete or one of their biggest athletes. It's something that I've seen happen, especially in DC. It was really difficult to be able to kind of marry an athlete and the team from a sponsorship standpoint. It really was separate, right? I remember Kelly Oubre had an Essential Water deal, and they had a massive sign with him dunking, and we had nothing to do with that, right? We were a Pepsi building, right? And we were pushing the Aquafina or the sign, whoever, I think it's Aquafina,
Aquafina.
We're pushing that, and you got Kelly Oubre outside of Cap One, dunking with Essential Water, right? So that's a direct example where Essential was able to get that done, and we're sitting on the sidelines. So it's very difficult to make those things happen, but if you can do it, you can strike gold with it.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, on the flip side with Sportico, you're pitching out to these different brands that are similar, that have that big nuance in brands. With crypto, you're seeing Coinbase and what they're doing in the ad space. Is that something you can pull from your past experiences, being able to understand the analytical data and then what you're doing now and being able to bring in those companies for sales and sponsorships with Sportico? Or Sportico and any type of, I don't want to give your job and what you're like pitching right now away. So.
No. You're good.
Yeah.
I think for us on the Sportico side, right, we're obviously we're filling the void of a deeper financial and legal analysis of sports, right? So whenever there's ownership change, investment dollars going into teams, leagues, agencies, we want to be at the forefront of that. So for us, when we move away from just providing newsletters and exclusive news in the sports ecosystem, we're doing this in person with live events, right? 100, 200 people, C-level, executive level, VP and up. And we're trying to create a safe space to have real thoughtful, tangible conversations in the space. So for us, it's about putting on thought leadership events, right? So if we were reaching out to a Coinbase, it's not only getting your brand in front of the decision makers in sports and the power brokers in sports, but it's also being able to promote your messaging and how you guys are approaching the industry. And I think that's the big thing for us. So in a Coinbase or, obviously crypto.com, FTX, all of these brands who are spending crazy money in mass marketing, right? They're showing up big in some of the biggest events around the world. For us, it's the polar opposite. We're very niche, and we want to say, hey, instead of reaching 100 million people, we want to reach the most 100 influential people in the space, right? So the guys that are signing, the guys and girls that are signing the front of the checks, those are the people that we target, right? So that's kind of how we're approaching it. So the wealth management industry, the banks, right? Some of the blue chip brands, the luxury brands, we reach out to them for some of the events to get in front of that. The Jets, right? The Gulfstreams of the world. So it's a different sell than it was on the team side, where you're really focused on mass marketing. Hey, this is the DMV target audience that goes to Caps games. This is the target audience that goes to Wizards games, and leveraging that against some of the sponsorships is very, very different on the sportical side, which is going to impact.
Just kind of going back off of how times are changing and we're reaching out to a more niche audience and everything. Going back maybe even only 5 years, right? When you look at the roles and partnerships from sales directors, VPs, and on up, the overwhelming majority of the people that filled those positions were older white males. Now that brands, I would say, are being more held to a higher standard from a consumer standpoint, and then also just from an audience base of who they're trying to reach with their perspectives there. Do you feel that these positions are starting to become, they're changing essentially? They're starting to become more diverse when you're seeing females in these sales positions, and you're starting to see more of a culture compared to what even 5 years ago that used to be?
I would even say pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So I think, look, George Floyd and that summer changed a lot. Changed a lot. A lot of corporations, most of which from my perspective, wanted to check a few boxes. Others were had more intent behind some of the initiatives. Inevitably, it is going to become more diverse. And I think that is obviously a great thing when you have more perspective in the room, right? And I think from my experiences, being the only Black seller pretty much my entire career in every stop that I had, it was definitely difficult. I think there's been a force change, like I said, a couple of summers ago, and I think that is going to be beneficial for us long term. I think brands with good intent or neutral intent, checking a box, it's going to be beneficial for us, both from a hiring standpoint and also selling sponsorships. I think it's going to be more top of mind when it comes to not only just a brand or a sign in a room or a sign in a building, but being able to leverage that from a philanthropic standpoint, always having a philanthropic tie to sponsorships, which is, for me, that's where I would like to see it go. Obviously, we need to be in the room more, but how do we kind of distill some of these dollars from sponsorship deals into 501c3s in the local communities? I think that's the power of sponsorship that I think we need to be able to leverage, right? Obviously, it's going to be great for us because we're going to be able to sell a little bit more because we're in those rooms. But as long as Zeus, chill out. As long as we're able to take advantage of it, I think we'll be good.
Yeah.
Zeus, relax, bro. I got a puppy Akita a couple months ago, so He was very chill for the most of the time, but
he just wants to be on camera.
Exactly. And so I think one of my neighbors probably opened their door, so that's why.
No problem there. I think that's very interesting what you said. When we're in the room, we can have those sponsorship dollars go back into the community. And I think the brands that get it are doing that, and we're seeing that in the communities already. And the brands that want to stay neutral, you're not seeing it as that much. Them, yes, they're still buying from those brands. Buying from those brands, but they're not putting their dollars where they are trying to get the consumer brands, the consumers to purchase from. So
yeah, and even the ones that are neutral or just checking a box, we can apply a lot more pressure than we could before. And I think that's the other thing where we can throw our weight around a little bit more. And we've never been in that position, particularly in the sponsorship realm, where if a brand is just dipping their toe in the water when it comes to quality initiatives in the community, you can push them on it. 3 years ago, I don't think we would have that same level of confidence to do so. So even on the ones that are neutral, we can push them now a lot more than we could in the past.
Yeah, I feel like we're definitely seeing that change for good. And that's probably going to be a continued trend as we move forward in the society here, which is awesome to see. Just kind of going into another direction here, has there been an MJ moment in your career where something someone said, did, or motivated you to prove them wrong and essentially be better or do better?
MJ moment.
Yeah, we call it an MJ moment because MJ was that guy who embodied anything you said to him or did to him, he remembered it to prove them wrong and do better later there. So
no, I get I don't think I've really had it on the professional side. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact, going back to, the last question, being the only one in the room, that was motivation enough for me. Yeah. Like in every situation I'm in now, right? Being the only one, there's a level and a standard that you have to set for yourself. And that was just something that was instilled for me from day one, growing up and having parents that grew up as that first wave of corporate professionals, right? And we think we had it bad, right? being one of two, one of one, within these sports departments. Imagine being in other industries in the 80s, right? 80s and 90s. So for me, it was always, hey, you got to be better than all. You got to outwork all. Period. Right? It was an uneven playing field. It wasn't a level playing field. So you gotta go get it. So for me, there was really no MJ moment from that standpoint. And then also, I think what I pulled from it was how neutral and how everyone around us from a senior leadership standpoint just always used to tap dance, right? They never wanted to have direct conversations, right? It was don't spook the thoroughbred. Don't say anything. We'll just be overly nice, be very generic when it comes to feedback and all those things. And that was what, honestly, if there was an MJ moment, it's just that. It's okay. They're so afraid to say anything that could offend, which for me just tells me they have their own issues, right? And they don't know how to act. So when they get around you, it's just a situation where it's, oh, I can't say anything. I'm walking on eggshells. I can't say anything too controversial. So it was just more of that. It's being isolated, that lone wolf, just that mindset puts you in a different space.
Yeah, I'll rephrase that question for you and call it Mamba mentality. Then that's definitely the mentality there.
yes, definitely.
But kind of piggybacking off that question, in your role, I feel like networking laterally is a key on being able to build partnerships, and a lot of success comes from networking laterally in order to get the sale. Can you just kind of talk to me about how the importance of being able to network laterally in your role currently?
Yeah, no, it's huge. It's huge. And I think obviously because of COVID, networking looks a whole lot different than it did 2019, excuse me. So for me, it's, whether it's different group chats, whether it's different organizations that meet virtually, and then obviously LinkedIn is massive for us in that space. And so, yeah, it's definitely been different. And again, being on the team side, it's just so easy to network, right? Like you have that springboard of events and all of the content and the events surrounding the games that allow you to really pull people into your orbit, right? Which I think is very different now, being virtual most of the time. You're not meeting people, face to face. And I think the most genuine partnerships inevitably come from meeting people face to face. So it's been obviously different, but for me, yeah, it's being more open and being intentional, spending your time reaching out to folks, and then more importantly, yeah, joining groups that can be helpful for you. Jared Nobles from the LA Dodgers is my guy, and he introduced me to a lot of different specifically Black corporate partnerships groups that have helped me immensely. Just from a thought leadership standpoint, obviously a networking, connections, leads. But it's those people like that pull you into different audiences and getting you in front of people that will help. So yeah, as an introvert, I've been pretty good with COVID, but yeah, it's those kind of virtual groups have definitely helped.
Yeah, and I think, kind of going off that, you have to be willing to learn in those groups too, and willing to kind of take those next steps, which is very important. It's good to have someone like Jared who's able to kind of introduce you. He's been in the game for a while now, has had great success for a while. So
absolutely,
having someone like that you can network with is probably huge for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. We'll have to get him on the show, see what all
he's the man. Yeah, he's the man. He just started the new gig with the Dodgers. Happy for him. Happy for him. So yeah, he's gonna kill it over there.
No, definitely for sure. Dodgers, that's my team in LA. I have a lot of LA teams, even though I'm from from the East Coast. Don't ask me why. Sure. But and finally, Zach, we're at our last question here. We reached the final here. This final question, we like to call it the shit you wish you knew. And which loosely translates to one piece of advice you wish you can tell your younger self or someone just starting out in this sports and entertainment industry here.
I think for me, I mentioned off the top, was never shy about job hopping for better opportunities. I think I would have definitely told myself to just be a little bit more patient. Just be a little bit more patient. And again, it's so taboo to say, oh, be present. But understanding that the sports world is extremely small. It's 1 degree of separation here. And some of the people that you did internships with, most of them are going to stay in the industry, and being able to cultivate those relationships a lot more. I think, with Mamba mentality comes tunnel vision, right? And I was just a horse with blinders on, like, yo, I don't give a fuck about anything else right now. I need to get better and move on, right? And I think that can get you places, and it can be very productive in moments, but all in all, it can be something that you regret. And I think that was definitely something that, for me, just so focused on the current step and the next step, not really worried about the distractions, right? Trying to eliminate the distractions, whereas not approaching it with, hey, this can be something that is valuable, with the network that you amass over the years. And I think that's something that I would look at, right? Really being able to pull and make and have substantive relationships with the people around you as you are moving throughout your career, especially in the early days.
No, that's great. That's a great tip right there for sure. I think I had those same blinders on in my early stages of the career there. I was just going 100 miles per hour, trying to get to my next step and taking some patience into it, which is something I'm still trying to practice in patience.
Goes a long way. It's not to say it's a bad thing, right? And there's a lot of benefit from it. but never the rose without the thorn. Like it's gonna be very fruitful for you, but in certain ways, when it comes to the relationships and the network, you see the potential of what could be.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and you're like, oh shit, I did that with that person 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's like, not a missed opportunity, but again, it's something to ponder when going through that, because it goes quick and it goes 1,000 miles an hour. Especially when it's your first internship, first job. The nerves that come with it. It definitely would be the area I would focus on.
For sure. And that just goes back to what we kind of talked about earlier, networking laterally. When you're doing those internships, stay connected with the people you did those internships with. They might, you never know how you can link up later on down the road for something. I think that's always a beautiful thing to do. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Zack, thank you for connecting with me today, bringing the LA vibes. I feel the weather. It's 90 degrees here today. So
I got 58 and cloudy. So it'll probably be sunny later today though.
Yeah, definitely. But then also want to thank you all for tuning into another episode here. If you want to see more content like content we're doing here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, LinkedIn. We'll connect soon. Thank you.
Thanks.